Amen. Always a good way to start the shir. With a coffee and an amen. Sorry? No, it's a new page 3. Okay? So we're going to start with source 8 on your source sheets, which is a mechaber in Choson Mishpat, help if I woke up, and my tongue woke up with me. Hilchas Mekach Umemka, Siman Reish Hey, Seif Yud Beis. Okay? And these are the halachas in Choson Mishpat, in Mekach Umemka, in commercial transactions, as to when, if and when there is coercion, there is duress, to be forced. Does it affect the validity of a sale? Says the Mechaber. Says the Shulchan Aruch. When do we say that there are forms of coercion which invalidate a sale? Those are all external factors. But what would be if there is internal coercion? We discussed this, I mentioned this last week. Somebody has hit dire straits, not the group, but the financial things are not going good, right? He's so he's up, his back is up against the wall, he's in a pickle, whatever word you want to use. He's not a happy bunny, he is forced to sell. You hear people say, I had no choice, I had to sell. I was forced to sell because my financial situation. So that is an onus, but because it's an onus which is, it doesn't come from, it's you. You are in a difficult financial situation. It's not somebody externally is holding a gun to your head. Therefore, that is not considered an onus that would invalidate a sale. And even in an external compulsion, that's only when they forced him to sell. What would be if not a situation where you're forcing somebody to sell, but you're forcing him to provide money for something? I don't know, protection racket or something, I don't know. But because of you have a compulsion to procure money, therefore you had to sell, that's not called an onus. It's vinasviga. And this is not the main reason why I brought you this mechaber, it's for this. The last bit, which I put in highlight, is in bold, is a Ramah. V'chol zeh ma'iri, because we've seen the sugim of the master, right? We know halacha l'maisa, taluhu v'zavin, zvine. If somebody is forced to sell, the sale is nonetheless valid. That we know. Says the Ramah, what would be the other way around? V'chol zeh ma'iri ba'amsuhu limko de'omrino. And here, this is very important. Please remember this. This is very important. I did mention it to you last week, but here you have it black and white. Why is it that when you are forced to sell, it is nonetheless, somebody puts a gun to your head? Not internal, I'm having financial difficulty. Somebody puts a gun to your head and forces you to sell your beloved house, Ferrari, wife, whatever, whatever it is, yeah? Because, what's the lambdas? How come it works? The omrinon agav unsei gomar umakni. You get market value. We're not talking about where you have to give it away, right? We're talking about you get market value. In order for something for title to transfer, in order for a sale to be valid, there has to be a das makne and a das koina. Always, right? It has to be a maisa kinyan. There has to be an act of acquisition, a maisa kinyan. There has to be a das makne and a das koina. What's missing over here? Really, I'm only doing it because the gun is put to my head. But once the gun is to my head, I have a choice. I'll tell you a joke. There was a stingy comedian, I forget, it was an American comedian, I forget his name, I think it was from the 1940s, 1950s. He used to play off his own stinginess as a self-deprecating sort of humor. And he says he was once mugged at New York at night. The guy put a gun to his head and he said, "Your money or your life? Your money or your life?" And the guy said, "Quiet, I'm thinking." In other words, so it's a Mishnah. The There are people, Shemamoinom, Chaviv Aleim Yosef, that's the Mishnah Brachas, yeah? B'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol moedecha, that's the Mishnah. What's more Chaviv to you? And this is really Rosh Hashanah, what's most important to you, whatever.
So as long as you have a choice, it doesn't matter what kind of choice.
But you make a choice. In that situation, it is true. The guy, he is, the fellow that puts the gun to your head is a criminal, and we should string him up or do whatever. That's not the point. The point is, at that moment in time, you are faced with a choice. The choice is not of your making or of your liking, but you have a choice. Either you forfeit your life, or he cuts off your arm, or whatever it is. Or you say, okay, very reluctantly, I agree to sell it to you. So you do have das to be makna to him. As long as you have das. Now, it's true it comes from an unpleasant and an unfair. But you could argue that it could be also unfair that with sometimes that you've got a bit of a cash flow, short-term cash flow problem, and you've got to sell your beloved Ferrari. It's unfair. It may be unfair. Life can be unfair. That's not the point. The point is not whether it is right or wrong. The point is whether, in the final analysis, at point of sale, do you have das makne? Says the Gemara, yes you do. Agav unsei gomaru makni. But at the end of the day, there is a das makne. Come to you in a second. I just want to finish off the remark. That's all when we're talking about selling. Avalon suhu liknois einoi kinyan. Beis Yosef b'shem itur. But what would be the other way around? If you are forced to purchase something. Somebody puts a gun to your head, for example, and forces you to buy something. Would that same lomdus apply? Would you say, the same lomdus that tells me, really, when I'm in a situation I'm being forced, say at gunpoint, to sell something, I'd rather not, but in the final analysis I make a decision and there is das makne, does the logic say that should only work when you're selling? Or should that also logically work also with buying? Could you apply the same lomdus? That really, I don't want to buy this thing. I have no interest in buying this thing. I have the money, but I don't want to buy this. But it's either my life or buying it, so I guess I'll buy it. So I have das to be cleaner. Is that, you should know it's a machlekes Rambam and the Bala Itur. And the Ramah here, paskins like the Bala Itur. The Rambam holds not like this. The Rambam holds the same lomdus. Is that what you were going to ask? Okay, that's it. So the same lomdus that says agavun say gomaru makni applies to, and here you need to be very careful with your Aramaic. There is taluhu v'zovin or taluhu v'zovan, and just like yud makes a difference between one means to fair kaufen, yeah, same thing, almost, yeah. So everybody agrees. There's a sugya muskim kula alma that all the poskim agree. Taluhu v'zovin zvine. Forced sale is valid. What about forced purchase? It's a machleikus, and the Ramah here clearly paskins like the Bala Itur. I think it's the Rif as well. Shaloika harambam, that forced purchase does not work. There's no geministas. So far so good, Rabbi Isai. Now we can learn the Beis Shmuel and the Chelkas Mechaykik, or rather we're going to do it in the other order, correct order, which is the Chelkas Mechaykik and then the Beis Shmuel. You know what? Let me just remind you before we do that, because it's been a few days. Let's go over the Shulchan Aruch again very quickly. Yeah. Avol ha'ish she'onsuhu ad shekidesh ba'al korchoi harezu mekudeshes. This is the Da'as Rambam. V'yesh oimrim she'eino mekudeshes. This is the Bala Itur. L'chura. Hilkach havelei sofek. So, we have the Mechaber over here in Hilchas Kiddushin, bringing the Das HaRambam and the Das Bala Itur, not being machriya between them, seemingly, and he bleibt, the Sefer Shel Dava is that what? It's a suffix. We end up with a suffix. So far so good? Now, can you think of a question maybe? Maybe? Sorry?
Why so?
Sofek Kiddushin. We've had many times, which means you've got to give a get me Sofek, etc. to Sofek. Because there's a big machlokes rishonim, like we said, the Rambam and the Itur, whether that's what it is. So it remains a Sofek. That's how the Rambam, the Mechaber paskins. Okay, let's see. Go on.
The Khatan is the Koine and she's the...
Yeah, always.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the one that does it, for sure. Okay? All right, let's see. I thought maybe you'd have a question, but the Chelkas Mechaikim definitely has a question. Let's see what you say about his question. Zog the Chelkas Mechaikim. First one here, Mem Beis, yes? Mem Beis Aleph. Avalo Ishon Su. Mipshat Loshen HaMagid Mishnah. Mashma, de Midino ein Chiluk beino Ish Koine Ba'oines, leho Ish Oniknis Ba'oines. He says from the Loshen of the Magid Mishnah, I actually put it in your sources, but what's the problem? What's the problem? Alles good? Everybody's got the... What? Okay, are you with me? You've got the Chelkas Mechaikim. You're following with me. That's the main thing. That's all that matters. Good. Mipshat Loshen HaMagid Mishnah Mashma de Midino min HaTorah ein chiluk beino ish koine ba'oines leho ish niknis ba'oines. Fundamentally, there is no difference between whether the coercion, the compulsion is mitzad the man or mitzad the woman. Uksheim de kaimen on toluv zovin zvina. Just as we pasken, a coerced sale is valid. Hu adin toluv zovan. You see that there? Zovin to zovan. You see that? So too, a coerced purchase is also valid. V'kol shekenu. Says maybe it's actually even a kol shekenu. A fortiori line of reasoning. The yoseh barotzein odom koine mishamoicha. People generally prefer to buy than to sell. Interesting supposition, by the way. Okay. Yeah, I mean, in trading financial instruments and derivatives, I don't know if you know anything about that. There is something called the long bias or a short bias, and it's a psychological component. I don't know if anybody knows. You're nodding. You seem to know what I'm talking about. There is a concept, and it's a psychological. I have a short bias. That's just the way it is. But I need to be aware of it, and then so if you're doing a trading style analysis, okay, I don't know why we're doing this. Let's go on. Never mind. But there's a concept. But here it's interesting. It's a psychological thing. People prefer to acquire than to divest themselves of assets, and therefore, if it works, if a coerced sale works, then kal v'chomer in other words, the threshold of what would be considered da'as is lower in the purchasing realm than in the. It's fascinating. It's interesting.
If the money is right for the selling object, then it's also purchasing money. It could be viewed as purchasing money. So you also.
That's very interesting.
If you get more back, if it's.
Well, it's market value. We're talking fair value. I'm assuming in both of these scenarios we're talking fair value.
Market value changes over time for some object also.
That's true.
So then you
but okay, you're going into a very interesting. You're really going to Hazov Konis HaKesef. What is money? You know what money is. Money in halacha, and money is. What is money? Is money a commodity? Whatever. Then that's really in Hilchas Ribis. That becomes very relevant. That's the whole Perek Hazov. Okay. Anyway, but fair point. Let's go on. V'loi kasva poskim din talu v'yohiv me'achar she'enoi mekabel shum dava. What would be forcing somebody and to give a present? That's, of course, they didn't talk about this because you don't receive anything. Therefore, mistama eina gomer umakne. Then, of course, not. The ein chiluk bein moiche chayfetz bedomim ba'oines or moiche chayfetz zeh b'chayfetz acher. Makes no difference whether you are bartering or you're selling for money. Afal pishu nikar gam kein lekeach. Umistama omru pshara harihi kemecher. Okay, I'm not really worried about this bit. We can fast forward it. It's not really relevant to it's a slight divergence. He wants to know whether bartering is the same thing. Okay, sure, fine. Yeah, skip to that. Shaharambam Saver the Ish Hakoine Loi Osu Takono Lahafkia Kiddushin. So what's the machlokes here? What are these two opinions? What are these two opinions? You see, I said to you that something that might actually be wrong. And nobody picked up on it, which is fine, because I didn't expect you to pick up on it. We have two opinions here in the Shulchan Aruch, whether the man is forced, whether it's Kiddushin or not. And I said to you, oh, this is the Rambam and the Itur. Says the Chalkas Mechaykek. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. That's not what's going on over here. What's going on over here is, this is the Rambam, this is the Lashon HaRambam. So what is going on over here? Well, not the whole thing's not the Lashon HaRambam. What's going on over here is Midina. Both these two opinions, we'll have to see who they are in a minute, if it's not the Rambam versus the Itur. But both of these opinions, says the Chalkas Mechaykek, agree with the Rambam. That what? That fundamentally there is no difference between selling and buying. So why, if that's the case, both can be done under duress. If that's the case, why are the two opinions as to whether when the man is forced? So he says, Pasha, the question is not whether Midina, the Kiddushin is Kiddushin. What is going on over here is that Midrabanon, when the woman is forced, the Rabbanon said to him, oh, you've done a bad thing, we're going to be mafkiya you Kiddushin. The question is whether the Rabbanon were geyser to be mafkiya the Kiddushin, also in the case of a man who was mekadosh, if they were forced a man to be mekadosh bal korch or not. That's the machlekes. You hear that? It's totally different. Let's do it again inside. Nochmal. Very important. From the words elovadai mashmad ein chiluk bein moichel leikeach. It is definitely the implication, says the Chalkas Mechaykek, of pshat in the two opinions in the Mechaber over here is there is no fundamental difference between selling and buying. And the machloikas, there's no fundamental machloikas even here with a man who is mekadosh bal korchay. The Rambam's of the opinion that if the man is forced, Chazal didn't interfere. They only interfered when the woman was forced. Then they said, we're going to be mafkiya the Kiddushin because you forced this poor girl to marry you. But if somebody forces the man to marry, Chazal don't interfere. And therefore it remains mid'oraisa, which is a forced purchase is also good, and therefore the Kiddushin stands. That's the first opinion. But the other opinion is, and because we pass in Kama Baravashi, remember it was Machlekes Ma Baravashi and Ameivar over there, and we pass in Kama Baravashi, Da'omat Nuv Kodesh, Lo Yahava Kiddushin, Me'achad Hu Asu Shlei Kahogen, Lefichach Asu Chachamim Shlei Kahogen, Vakin Rabban Kiddushin, Va'asu Amois Matona, V'chol HaMekadosh Dat Rabban Mekadosh. Ela Ukmei Adinei, they didn't do that when it was the man who was forced. Ela Ukmei Adinei, they left it as it was, the Kol Haloikeach Ba'oinus, like any normal. Any case where there is a forced purchase, that it's valid. V'hacholkim soivrim. The other opinion here holds the gam kan osu takona. In this case also, Chazal made a takona even in the case of when the Choson is forced, also to be mafkiya the Kiddushin. Avol midina kula al mamoida dein chiluk ben ha'isha koina ba'oinus leho'isha nikdis ba'oinus. But fundamentally, there is no difference between the man and the woman. The only machlokas is what, Kobe? Whether? Gabby?
If it takes place to Rabbanon.
Whether midrabanon, the Chazal interfered to be mafki or not. But everybody agrees midina that it's of course it's a good kiddushin whether the woman is forced, whether the man is forced, because that's the halacha. The halacha is that a forced purchase is good. The only shayla is in a drabonon, so it's got nothing to do with the balo ito. Let me just finish this. Sorry, I know I'm doing this one more line. So far, that's right. Those are the two opinions. Now, so the elo al kain ani toma. This is what I was thinking. Maybe somebody would ask me for. Therefore, says the Chalkas Mechaykek, I have a real big question. Mashakosav harav bahagor choshen mishpot simen reishei soif hasimen. I showed you. We just did this. We just learned this. Are you with us? You look like you're struggling there, Eli.
Yeah, no, I don't see where it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it ends there, so.
It can't,
No.
does it? Oh no.
So it's because. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not?
So,
Are you sure? He looks over the page, yeah?
Yeah, the last page. It ends
I'm
with
sorry.
the
I'm sorry. Okay.
therefore, it was-
Okay. Okay. So have you got inside at least?
I think I can find you.
It's the last line and a half of the Chalkas Mechaykek Membeis Aleph. Literally, the last line. It's very important we see this inside, guys. It's really important. Elo al kain ani toma mashakos of Arav Bago. Gabby, find it, yeah? Membase, Chelkas Mechaykek, Aleph, towards the end of Aleph, the last two lines. Let me help you here. Let me help you. Here we go. Membase, Chelkas Mechaykek, Aleph, last two lines.
Oh, it's also here actually.
Yes, right here. So it's here. Oh, pay forget page numbers. Out there. Okay. Oh. Mimela, Fred the Chelkas Mechaykek. It's very important because this is the key idea really here, which we're going to have to spend some time on. So therefore he says, I have a very interesting question. What did the Ramah Paskin? We did this morning. What did the Ramah Paskin in the Chesed Mishpat? Forced purchase. Does it work? No. Forced purchase does not work. So what's the question? Here the Mechaber brings two opinions. The way the Chelkas Mechaykek understands these is that both opinions hold that what? A forced purchase does work. Und was sagt der Ramah here?
Nine.
Ganix. No, he doesn't say nine. I wish he would say nine. That's his problem. That's the Chelkas Mechaykek's kasha. I know from Choson Mishpat that what? That the Ramah holds that a forced purchase is no good. So the Das Ramah over here would be that not that it's a Sophic Kiddushin, but it's no Kiddushin. The Ramah doesn't say anything here. That's his kasha. Pele Otsum.
That's why I asked.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to learn to let you speak, and not just to make it hold on. I apologize. Imagine he would have Baruch Shekivanta.
But I have another question.
Oh, right, whoa. One at a time. Now you wait. Let's just finish this. Gewaldig. Meiredik, here. Geschmack kasha. That's why I wanted you to see the Ramah first. So again, let's go over this quickly. The Ramah holds a forced purchase is no good. The Mechab over here brings two opinions when the Choson is forced to make the Kiddushin, whether it works or not, and he passes into Sophic. Zog the Chelkas Mechaykek, what's the Pshat? It's got nothing to do with the Machlokes and Rambam and Itur, whether a forced purchase works or not. No, both hold. This is the Das Rambam. That forced purchase does work. Shaila is only, did Chazal interfere to say Afkinu Rabban Kiddushin Minei with in the case of the Choson? Those are the two Shailas. Yeah. If that's the case, then this whole Mechaber is Shaloika HaRamah in Chesed Mishpat Reishei. In which case, why on earth did is the Ramah silent? Shtika Kahida, we say, right? Why is he silent? Let's just finish this up. Blah blah blah. How can any Toma Mashkos of Rav Bagochish Mishmasim Reishei? Avalon Sulik Nesei Nekini. Who me dibri balo itur? Vadvorim tmuim. Dekan mashma de'ein chiluk ben koine lemakne. And he leaves it open. And this is a Kobe. You hear this? It's an old kasha, no? Big kasha. So, what do you want to say? Yeah.
So my question is, it seems from Chelkas Mechaykek doesn't hold the opinion of the Smag. Smag says that it's all go right anyway.
Correct.
And therefore he's not holding this.
Yeah.
He's not like he has a bit of a different mind.
Definitely. This is Kol Zeh Shaloika HaSmag. Absolutely. 100%. Definitely. Okay? Now.
What does the finger mean?
Sorry?
In the new edition there's a fingerprint. Does it have any particular meaning?
Well, you want one of these?
Yeah.
That means this. Look at this. This is a chiddush. It's not the gun. It's not a pistol sign. It's not a pistol emoji. No.
It means big chiddush.
Yeah. It means chiddush. Yeah. It was a device they used to use, which kind of means see this. Yeah. Okay. Now we can do the bash. Zog the Beis Shmuel, and you tell me what's going on over here. Zog the Beis Shmuel. Al korchei nimkudeshes. Af al gav the kaimalon moicher bal korchei zvina. V'hi havakilu mochres atzma lebaalo. Okay, we're doing the Beis Shmuel. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Beginning, yeah? We're all good? So even though, says the Beis Shmuel, that we pasken that a moicher bal korcho does work, and here it should be like she is selling herself to the Baal, Isa b'shas, kiven shas abal shlei kahoigel afkin rabban kiddushin. Fine. Now, v'im kofu oisoi lekadesh. This is our right. This is the case. Rav Magid. If the Choson was forced to be Mekadosh, Choson Magid, the loy amrina and the doimel kafu isa. It's not the same as if she's forced. The Isha, and here he says something interesting which we haven't seen yet. The Isha eino yechola lotzeis mimenu ulafkia asatzmoi mimenu. This is a svara. Do you know why Chazal interfered, says the Rav Magid, if in a case that a woman is forced? Because if we're going to let this forced marriage stand, think about this woman. She is now, she's trapped, because she can't be Megarish herself.
Right.
She's trapped, she's got nowhere to go. But an Ish, Yachel Garish Bal Korcha. If he wants to get out, at least Min HaTorah, man has a way out. Min HaTorah, he has a way out, he can be Megarish Bal Korcha. So we don't need to step in to interfere, because if he doesn't like it, he has a way out. So we don't need to. That makes sense. A nice svara, right? Woman, why do we interfere? Because you can't be. She doesn't want out. She wants out, and the guy says no. It's a problem. And we want. That's why the Rabban stepped in, but not in the case of him. Fine. Says the Beishmul. And ad can the Rav Magid. Says the Mishmul, but now that we have to come to Rabbeinu Gershom to Ein Megash Ba'Kolcha, Im Kein Shabbat Din Ish Leisha. So then, maybe remember, the Mechaber was written, the Mechaber and the Ramah. This is around 1500. Rabbeinu Gershom had been around for 500 years already. Yeah. So if that's the svara, then there should be no difference between a man and a woman. Good point to the Beishmul, no? Or at least it's the Maggid Mishnah. In case somebody in Ishli, so if she b'chiyai gavna, she kiddush ali dekvia, loy tikkun ram gamliel, v'yochel legarish mal korcha v'kach kosav b'taz. Fine. Umuchach mi magid, says the Beis Shmuel, it's muchach. You must say, you see from the Rav Magid, disvira leim koina bal korcha kona. You see by implication the Maggid Mishnah, who differentiates between the woman being Niknas Bal Korcha and the man being Koina Bal Korcha. Why Chazal didn't interfere? One thing you see clearly from the Rav Magid, that the man being Koina Bal Korcha works. The only question is, why didn't Chazal, right? Muchach, again, Muchach mi Magid Disvirulei im Koina Bal Korcha Koina. That if he is Koina Bal Korchoi, he is Koina. Dimloi Kain, because if a forced purchase doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then there's nothing, you don't need to talk about it, right? In how do you know that kiddushin? Forget discussing whether he can be megarish bal korcha, but we should have said, in other words, he's assuming that the man can be, if he is forced, it is kiddushin. El bal korcha. So how can he be koina? The Rav Magid says, obviously is of the opinion that a forced kiddushin is the same as a forced purchase, and therefore, if he, just in the same way that a forced purchase is valid, so if the choson is forced to be mekadesh, it also works. But you might have thought that the different forms of coercion are similar. Therefore, so then he says his svara, difference between him and her, because he has a way out, he can be megarish bal korcha, but she would be stuck. The koina bal korcha, the hasvira le hasugi ayru kisham so esoi, the girsa shalohi, finished. V'yesh omrim. There's a dot and then v'yesh omrim. Says the Beis Shmuel. Now here, listen up. V'yesh omrim shehevi. Now the yesh omrim. What's the yesh omrim over here? The einam mukudeshes. That if the man is forced to be mekadesh, the second opinion in the Mechaber. Listen to how the Beis Shmuel learns this. V'yesh omrim shehevi. Hainu mashekosav hatur b'shem orif v'ha'itur v'chein isa v'choshen hamishpot seif simon reish hey b'shmoi. That means the Ramah. Disvirule kinyan ba'oinus loy kona. V'sham posak kavosei harav Ramah. V'teima d'hamavua kan l'das poiskim elu koine bal korcha v'chein hiksha b'chalkas mechoykek. Right? So, do you see already the massive difference? Okay, I'm going to stop here for a minute. I'm going to make you guys do a little bit of work. Just on the basis of what we've just read and translated, tell me the difference between the Chelkas Mechaykek's understanding of the V'yesh Omrim and the Beis Shmuel's understanding of who the Yesh Omrim are. It's really very straightforward. Not sure?
Not sure.
Yeah?
The Chagam Chok is actually what he's saying. He's talking about the part if the Chachamim also like made a takana like as they did like Lavkiyam Na'isham. That's actually how the Yeshomim understand it. So that's what they understand that the Yeshomim is actually if that's the power of the rabbis or not. That's the
Yes.
Chagam Chok, and then Shmuel talks about it. It's the Ito. He says it's an Ito because actually then actually it's talking actually merely only about transactions.
Correct. Almost your last.
Yeah, don't mean about the transaction.
No.
You understand?
I think you need to, if I may, if I can be your
Yeah.
interpreter, because
Yeah.
you've got it. As I would say it like this: the Chelkas Mechaykek says very clearly that both of these opinions here in the Mechaba, the Sophic, whether if the man is forced to be Mekadosh, whether it works or not, they both hold like the Rambam.
Yeah.
Dahainu, that of course a forced purchase works. The only shaila here is whether the Rabbanon then went and intervened to uproot it. But a forced purchase works, and thus a forced Choson being Mekadosh also works. And on that there is no argument. The Beis Shmuel comes along and says, that's not what's going on here at all. Not at all. The first opinion here that says that a forced purchase works is the Rambam. That a forced purchase works, and therefore a forced chuppah on part of the Choson also works. The Yesh Omrim is the Bala Itter and the Rif. And the same as the Ramah in Chosh Mishmar Reish Hey, that fundamentally, midoiraisa, a forced purchase does not work. The Mechaba can't make his mind up how to paskin, so to speak, so it seems, and therefore he leaves it as a suffix. The Ramah, however, in other words, what these two opinions are, there's a fundamental machlokes between the Chelkas Mechaykek and the Beis Shmuel, who they are, what they are. In other words, is this two opinions at a doiraisa level, Chelkas Beis Shmuel, or at a drabanan level, whether they're mafkia or not? That's a fundamental machlokes. The Beis Shmuel, the Chelkas Mechaykek has to, as we would say in the Olam HaYeshivas, bleib tzarechiyun, because he sees both opinions in the Mechaba as being like the Rambam, not like the Ramah in Chosh Mishmar Reish Hey. And then he says, I don't understand, how come the Ramah kept quiet over here? He should have chimed in and said, hello, it's not right, neither of these. But the Beis Shmuel says that's exactly what's going on over here. The Yesh Omrim is the Das HaRamah. The Yesh Omrim in the Mechaba, so he blames Sophic. But it is mentioned over here. The Ramah doesn't need to say anything, it would seem. Why? Because the whole question is, both of these opinions are Shaloka Ramah, then he should have said something. But when he's brought one opinion, then he can rely on what he already said in Chosh Mishpat. The second opinion, according to the Beis Shmuel here, is the Das HaRamah. And therefore there's no question.
But the Beis Shmuel still has a problem with the suffix which we read before.
What do you mean? Explain what you mean by problem with a suffix.
Because he holds that the Ramah does not have any suffix, and he would say even principally on the right level for the Choson it's a problem. We shouldn't have a suffix.
Correct. So so according to the Beis Shmuel, the Mechaba is bringing two opinions whether minhat Torah it works or not.
Yeah.
The second opinion is the same as the Ramah. The Ramah now doesn't need to have any compulsion to speak because he's already paskened in Chosh Mishpat. It's only, I see what Gabby's trying to say. Gabby's, Alex.
Maybe I don't.
No. I think what you're trying to say is the Beis Shmuel brings the Chelkas Mechaykek's question. Does he agree with his question? No. So it was a bit subtle. The first time I learned this, it took me a short while because I looked at it and I thought they're asking the same thing. And you're going to see, we won't get to it today. Tomorrow we will be learning an Avnei Miluim on this with a new interpretation, but it's very, very clear. The Chelkas Mechaykek is stuck. is in his understanding of the Ramah. But that's based on the fact that he saw neither of these opinions, or both of these opinions are not like the Ramah. The Beis Shmuel is okay. He says the second opinion is basically the Ramah. Second opinion is the Ramah. It's the Balayitur that min HaTorah a forced purchase doesn't work. Right. And then he says, the V'sham Pasuk Abba say Rav Ramah. The Tema, Domavuk, and that's place he made him kind about Korcha, so he does bring his question, but it's not really a question according to Chelkes Mechaykim, because is the Ramah Mechuyev every time to continue to cross-reference everything he said he's paskened already, and the opinion is here. So in Ochanam it is true, but even having said that, you could still have again. I don't want to preempt the Avnei Miluim. There is another way out. We'll see another way out. Let's just finish for today at least. Let's just finish the Beis Shmuel. There's one more comment. The Raavad, he brings a Raavad. Because of a Raavad, the Eira Hocha the Onsu Oisoi. The Raavad here says that here it's true that they forced him Va'omar Roitze Ani. Here he said they forced him, and then he said Roitze Ani. Whereas in Choson Mishpat they forced him, but he didn't say Roitze Ani. Maybe that's the difference. The Magid Kosav Dein Tzarich Lemer Roitze Ani. The Rabbi Magid says no, there's no need to say Roitze Ani. The Ayin Bisma, the Ayin Sim Kuf Lamed Daled. And that's how he leaves it. And if you mekadosh a woman while you were snoozing, it works. Okay, that's another halacha. Fine. This is how we leave it for today. Big machlokes Chelkes Mechaykim Beis Shmuel had to understand these two opinions, and tomorrow we will progress to the Avnei Miluim Mitzvah Hashem. Take it further. Shkayach.